After a season of proving it can work, the 2025-26 season was the one to give it all for one thing: the assignment. It was a season for major investments.
It's a lot of money.
And high expectations.
The Kentucky boys are insane.
That ultimately became a season of frustration.
It was an endless boo from start to finish.
And disappointment.
The season as a whole was a huge disappointment.
One that contained plenty of highs.
The largest halftime comeback in the history of Rupp Arena.
That's an insane stat.
But just as many lows.
This has been an absolute disaster.
This is the story of a team that we never got to really see.
You heard Jalen Lowe say it popped.
Of a coach being doubted for the first time.
Regardless of how blatantly people are trying to make this not happen, we refuse to give them their power. That's what I talked about.
Of a fan base running out of patience. This is the story of year 2. All right, quick editor's note. You might be wondering, why is the season recap video coming out now in June instead of March or April? Part of the reason is that as a Kentucky fan and somebody who covers the program, I didn't think this was the right video to publish while Mark Pope was still putting together his team. The other reason is that what happened this offseason, it matters on how we view year 2. If Kentucky had followed up the season with a disappointing offseason, then this story probably feels a lot different. Instead, Pope responded by rebuilding the roster and giving fans renewed optimism heading into year 3. The 2025-26 season was frustrating. It was another season plagued by injuries. It fell well short of expectations, but it also gave us some of the most unforgettable moments that we've had as fans. All right, so now that we got that out of the way, we can quit stalling. Let's talk about year 2 of the Mark Pope era. But before we get into everything that happened this season, if you guys can just do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button, would really appreciate it so we can keep making content like this. After proving himself in the first season, Mark Pope was given the money to build a national championship roster. The number was reported in the Lexington Herald as being $22 million. As soon as the first season ended, Mark Pope scoured the planet for guys who would fit his system the best. Over the course of a month, Pope built the entire roster, 6 portal additions layered on top of freshmen and returning pieces.
Veterans, got freshmen, we got transfers.
The beauty is in the tournament, it's so much about matchups. He's got an answer to everything.
The preseason expectations that were set by fans was actually confirmed by Mark Pope.
We got a beautiful Ferrari and we can't wait to take it for a spin.
The roster looked good on paper, but there was one major problem. The injury bug was not done with Kentucky. Otega Owe was in a boot during the summer with turf toe, but he was not expected to miss any games. But after Big Blue Madness 2025, Otega Owe was back on the court with his teammates, and it was good vibes only. Kentucky was one of the favorites to make the Final Four. Big Blue Nation was ready for a season of Kentucky dominance until the worst thing that could have happened. Hopes of a national championship were crushed before the season even tipped off. No one knew when Lowe would be back or if he even would be at all. And with the first exhibition game just 1 week away, it happened at the worst time. That first preseason game would be a big one. Number 1 Purdue came into Rupp Arena and took a double-digit loss. Without their starting point guard and Jaden Quintance, the Wildcats looked every bit of $22 million. With Jalen out, Jasper shined in the backup point guard role, hitting shots, making good passes. Kentucky fans were sticking their chest out like they hadn't in a long time. The Ferrari was 1-0 and had the attention of the college basketball world.
I'm excited to see some of these new guys bring, and I'm hoping they bring a championship this year. Go Cats!
We're winning number 9. 100,000% we're winning number 9 this year.
Number 9.
But BBN would get humbled the following week. With Denzel Aberdeen out, the Cats' depth didn't look as promising. The Hoyas ran Kentucky off the court to close the exhibition season. But after a 2-0 start to the regular season and the BBN United Tip-Off Classic presented by Kentucky Tourism, the Wildcats were ranked number 1 in KenPom. They took that ranking into a hostile Yum Center in Louisville, Kentucky. One of the most anticipated editions of the rivalry saw the Cards take a 20-point lead in the second half. The Cats fought back, but the Cards would get their first win over Kentucky since 2021. Kentucky fans who aren't used to losing to Louisville took it pretty hard, and things got even worse. First, Mark Pope said there was something that happened before the Louisville game, then said it was nothing, and then quoted Taylor Swift. Jalen Lowe then hurt his shoulder again in practice. And all of that would really numb the celebration for the BB&United United Tip-Off Classic presented by Kentucky Tourism. The team headed off to New York City for the Champions Classic, and that's where things would get weird. Following another blowout in the Big Apple, Mark Pope looked as melancholic as a coach has ever looked following a November loss.
Identity should be if you build an organization the right way, then your identity is not about an individual person. Your identity is about a collective group. And so it shouldn't matter if we had built a great organization and a great culture, which I've clearly failed to do up until today. But we won't fail this season. We just have failed up till today.
And Mark Pope afterwards, I mean, he was depressed. He was. I mean,
Worse, Mo Diabate got injured in the game versus the Spartans, and that would prove big when the North Carolina Tar Heels came to Rupp Arena. In a game where Kentucky didn't make a basket for nearly 10.5 minutes, North Carolina took the lead with seconds remaining. The Wildcats could not answer, and suddenly they were 0-3 in marquee games. With several injuries and locker room rumors swirling, it felt like Kentucky had a season's worth of drama in about 1 month. And it was about to get much worse. On a Friday night in Nashville, Big Blue Nation packed out Bridgestone Arena to see their Cats take on the Gonzaga Bulldogs. And it would be probably the darkest day of the Mark Pope era. Fans wasted no time voicing their displeasure. Boos began raining down on the court. Maybe fans were just displeased with how the team was playing, but it felt bigger than that. It felt more like a booing and rejection of the program as a whole. It didn't seem like the fans were just booing this team. It was as if they were booing the half-decade without winning anything, not living up to the standard, and not understanding the assignment. Whatever the reason, the booing began early and never really stopped, as Kentucky did not score a basket until the under 12.
Loud. I've never heard it. I tweeted at Drew Franklin during the game and said, they're booing their own boys. I've never heard that.
Kentucky was booed off the floor as Gonzaga embarrassed the Wildcats 94-59, one of the worst defeats in school history. Mark Pope's honeymoon phase was officially over. After being benched in a win over NC Central, Brandon Garrison would be the difference maker for the Cats off the bench versus Indiana. Kentucky turned a 9-point deficit into a 12-point win. BG's performance was the talk of the game. Kentucky would have a week off before one of the most anticipated games on the schedule, the student versus the teacher, Mark Pope versus Rick Pitino in Atlanta. And it had everything. Jaden Quintance made his Kentucky debut, but the Cats would lose Lowe as he aggravated his shoulder again in the first half. And Kentucky fell behind by double digits again. Lowe came back out in the second half. Quintance didn't just play, he changed the game. Put-back dunks, defensive energy, imposing presence, and just like that, the version of Kentucky everyone had been sold finally showed up. The deficit disappeared, and by the end, Kentucky took control. A 12-point win, and more importantly, for the first time all season, Big Blue Nation saw the vision.
But I think Mark did a brilliant thing. You know, he came in the season thinking he had this great shooting team, and it's obvious that it's probably just an average shooting team. And he said, I'm going to change the whole mindset. We're going to be a physical team. We're going to be a tough team. And they totally changed their personality of who they are. And I think that's a brilliant move by Mark.
Suddenly, those 4 losses didn't feel quite as bad because maybe, just maybe, they hadn't really seen this team yet. They took care of business against Bellarmine, and with some time off for the holidays, Kentucky prepared for SEC play. For the first time in the Pope era, there were no injuries on the availability report. Yes, guys were playing through injuries and still recovering, but this was the most healthy Kentucky team of the year. They walked into Tuscaloosa to face the Alabama Crimson Tide, and they got down by double digits. Again. Alabama ran them off the floor. So if the question was, what does Kentucky look like at full strength? That first answer in the SEC wasn't encouraging. Honestly, like at this point, the questions were changing. It wasn't so much like, why aren't they winning? It was like, okay, what is wrong with this team? Back at Rupp Arena, the urgency was obvious. They needed a win. And for a while, it looked like they were gonna get it. They were up 8 late with control of the game, and then it unraveled. Kentucky collapsed. And just like that, the feeling from Atlanta was gone. Not replaced with anger, not even frustration, but something heavier. Acceptance. Maybe this team just wasn't very good. Because now it wasn't just injuries. It wasn't just bad luck. Even at full strength, something still wasn't right. And then the Fire Mark Pope threads started to show up. And not everyone believed it, not even close, but there was enough of them that you couldn't really ignore it. And then it almost reached a breaking point. First, the news. Jaden Quentin's out. Knee swelling, no clear timeline, and most Kentucky fans knew what that meant. Then the recruiting news. Tyron Stokes, who had been a Kentucky lean, was now heading to Kansas? And then this.
There's no time for indulging in feeling terrible. You know, I spent a lot of time feeling like I'd like to curl up in bed and kill myself, but that's actually not what we do.
And on Saturday, it didn't start off any better. Lowe went down again, same shoulder. This time it was over. Season ending. And Kentucky fell behind by double digits again. And inside Rupp, you could feel it. Like, people were starting to wonder, I mean, if they can't beat Missouri, if they can't beat Mississippi State at home, who can they beat? But a switch flipped. Kentucky stormed back, and they won going away. With an SEC win finally on the board, Kentucky went to Baton Rouge for what was supposed to be an easy victory. Matt McMahon was on the hot seat. So for Kentucky, the expectation was so simple. Now, just win this game, take care of business, and get back to 500. Instead, they fell behind by double digits. Again. By the start of the second half, Kentucky was facing an 18-point deficit. But then, they fought back. Possession by possession, cutting into the lead. They even took the lead when Cam Williams jumped a pass and finished at the rim himself. And just when it felt like they had it, it slipped again. Down 2 with a few seconds left, Otega-Owe went to the line, made the first, but missed the second. And 99 times out of 100, that's the game. But Kentucky would foul, LSU would go to the free throw line. Missed both. Kentucky got the rebound, called timeout. 1.6 seconds to salvage the season. Colin Chandler launched it deep. Malachi Moreno caught it, turned, fired, and buried it. Buzzer beater, game over, a walk-off, a miracle for Mark Pope, for this team.
Having that moment, it was just kind of just like my little kid came back to me, and I was just like, I kind of just relived the driveway moment.
The kind of win that could change the locker room, change the entire trajectory of the season. Instead, they went down to Knoxville, and they got down by double digits again. The 17-point first half deficit was trimmed to 11 by halftime. The Cats kept fighting, but the hole they dug themselves appeared to be too deep. Yet down the stretch, Kentucky made massive plays. A steal from Chandler, a bucket from Owe, an offensive rebound, a floater from Aberdeen, and seemingly out of nowhere, Kentucky had a 3-point lead with just seconds remaining. In 1 week, the comeback Cats had stolen 2 wins and were now 3-2 in SEC play. They kept it going. They beat Texas, but lost Cam Williams to a broken foot for most of the season. Just so frustrating. They beat Ole Miss in Lexington in the middle of a snowstorm. 5 straight wins. And for a moment, despite the injuries, it felt like Kentucky had figured things out. With the fan base fully bought in now on this winning streak, Kentucky went down to Nashville to face Vanderbilt, with the Commodores missing their best player, and they got down by double digits again, and lost by 25 points. And just like that, the 5-game win streak didn't feel like momentum anymore. It felt like an illusion or a fluke, and the hits kept coming. Mark Pope announced that week that Jaden Quentin was in full shutdown mode. Another piece gone, another version of this team we would never get to see. Meanwhile, Kentucky's former coach had things rolling a little bit down in Arkansas. John Calipari's Razorbacks were 6-2 in the SEC and had beaten the same Vanderbilt team by 25. But when the Cats went to Fayetteville for a whiteout, things just got insane. Kentucky led for most of the game until they were whistled for one technical, then seconds later, another one, and then seconds later, another one. 3 technical fouls in 30 seconds. After that, it looked like the game was only going to go one way, but Kentucky bounced back. An Oweh and one, a Colin Chandler turnaround jumper, and Kentucky left Bud Walton Arena with a massive win. It would end up being the only home loss Arkansas would suffer all year, and with a total of 7 technical fouls in the game, one of the strangest wins of the season and the Mark Pope era for Kentucky. After winning 6 of 7, Kentucky came back home with something they hadn't had much of all season: momentum. And inside Rupp Arena, you could feel it. And then Tennessee came to town for the rematch. With it being Denim Night in Rupp Arena, Kentucky fans felt like it was destiny for the Cats to beat the Vols again. Instead, they got down by double digits again. Because no matter how much momentum they built, the same pattern kept showing up: fall behind, fight back, live on the edge. But as they had done so many times already this season, Kentucky made adjustments and climbed back into the game. And everyone in the building that night had to be thinking the same thing. Like, they're not going to do this again, right? To the same team? Well, Captain Clutch, Colin Chandler, rose up and buried the go-ahead 3 with seconds to play. The comeback Cats delivered again. Another unbelievable win, another regular season sweep of Tennessee.
Did you tell him in the huddle after that shot?
I said, you a bad motherfucker, bro. You cold, bro. Because that's just like, bro, it's like the 3rd, 4th, like, I don't even know how many times he's done something clutch, so I just told him you bad.
And just like that, they were back in the top 25. The fan base all the way back in. Winners of 7 of their last 8, Kentucky took that momentum into Gainesville with first place in the SEC on the line, and they got down by double digits again. And again they fought back, but couldn't complete the comeback this time. And then things started to slide after that. The Cats lost to Georgia at home, then Auburn on the road on a buzzer beater. 3 straight losses. Just like that, everything flipped again. And this time, the frustration couldn't stay contained. Late against Auburn, Colin Chandler was called for a push-off that led to the Tigers' game-winning putback. One of several calls that night that didn't sit well. And afterward, Mark Pope did not hold back.
Well, we're not allowed to talk about the referees, but you guys saw it, and I think sometimes it's just super personal. Regardless how embarrassing, personal, awful, like unacceptable things are, we refuse to give away our power. Those motherfuckers try to 5-6. They did not say a word about how they cheated us.
However, Kentucky would punch their ticket to the big dance the following week with a win over South Carolina and a very impressive win over Vanderbilt. Hoping to carry the momentum into the postseason, Kentucky led 30-18 at Texas A&M, cruising to an easy win. Just kidding. Instead, they got down by double digits again and took another loss. On senior day, in the rematch with the Florida Gators back in Rupp, Kentucky got down big early, made a push late, but ultimately took another loss. Mark Pope's team limped into the SEC tournament as a 9 seed. For the first time ever, Kentucky was playing on Wednesday of the SEC tournament. That did, however, give them the best chance at winning multiple games in Nashville for the first time since 2018. So that's something. And they pulled off 2 close games versus LSU and Missouri before losing to Florida for the 3rd time. Kentucky players and coaches were in a private meeting when their name popped up on Selection Sunday. Kentucky would be a 7 seed and a trendy upset pick versus Santa Clara. And 7-10 games don't usually deliver like this one did. Kentucky and Santa Clara traded runs throughout the game, but with just 30 ticks on the clock, Kentucky found themselves down 70-68, and then March Madness happened. Ortega tied the game at 70 with 9 seconds left. Santa Clara raced down the floor, and Allen Graves hit a 3 with just 2.4 seconds left. The season was about to end, a 3rd loss to a double-digit seed in 6 years. If not for Otega Oweh. Elway's half-court shot was the talk of the weekend and saved the season. Fans all over the country celebrated. Brandon Garrison made huge plays in overtime, and the Cats survived and advanced to the round of 32.
I'm out, so I was really just trying to get as close as I can, and I got it up. You know, we practice half-court shots at our shoot-around every single game day, so I feel like that was that coming into fruition.
With Iowa State missing their best player, there was hope. And early on, it looked justified. Kentucky jumped out to a 20-9 lead. And for a moment, it looked like maybe this is it. Maybe Kentucky is going to go on a run. And then Kentucky got down by double digits again. The Cyclones went on a 75-45 run to close out the game. Kentucky's worst tournament loss since 1972.
Was the team that hovered between 25 and 35 all season long ended up being knocked out in the round of 32. Exactly what one would expect.
It kind of was a snowball effect, it felt like, where the first few and they started getting momentum and turning it up, and we just didn't respond.
The locker room following that tournament loss stood in stark contrast to the one we saw the previous season. For the whole season, we tried to figure out what this team was. Were they inconsistent? Unlucky?
I think we were disappointed that we never got to run with the roster that we thought we had.
It's sad we didn't reach the goals we wanted to, but hopefully we're remembered for the good things that this team brought, though, as well.
I'm just proud of each and every one of my teammates, my coaches, BBN, for just allowing me to be here.
I'm disappointed that we didn't get it done this year, but I mean, these past 2 years have been amazing.
And that's what makes the 2025-26 season so frustrating. Not because Kentucky wasn't good enough, but because we never really got the chance to find out how good they could have been. Now, heading into a pivotal year 3, Pope has reloaded with players who should fit his system better and a staff that looks different from the one that walked off the floor in March. While year 2 gave us plenty of memories, it also left us with some big questions about the future of the program. Now, it's up to year 3 to provide the answers.